Hi everyone, it's me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. And welcome to our YouTube, Ryan Jones. There we go. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It is great having you here. I just want to kick this all off by having you introduce yourself to our guests and give us a little bit of background about who you are.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm Ryan Jones. I'm running for Attorney General for the District of Columbia for the June 2022 primary election. Um, I'm from Washington, D.C. I grew up in the 16th Street Heights neighborhood in Northwest Ward 4. Uh, Growing up there, my mother and father, my mom's a real estate agent. My dad worked for the Office of the People's Counsel as a policy advisor. I have an older brother named Derek, who is a real estate agent as well. I played a lot of basketball growing up, so I got me all around DC, playing AAU, playing pickup, playing with my high school team at DeMatha first, then St. John's. Went on to play college basketball at Elon for 2 years, which I then transferred to Stony Brook. And oddly enough, those two institutions are now in the same athletic conference, so they'll be going head to head with one another in the coming seasons. So that's exciting for me. Let's see, I tried to play ball for as long as I could, and I worked at the office, I worked at the WIC State Agency here in DC, providing, supplemental nutrition vouchers and whatnot to women's, infants, and children. And you learn a bit about the fabric of DC, what government services do to enrich the lives of people here. Through that experience, I said, I'm thinking about the law. And I bounced over to a law firm called Ducey Mastriani in Schaumburg. They focused on international trade and intellectual property. And I got to see a different part of DC, what is a part of the engine that makes it go, that K Street corridor where you have lobbyists and you have a lot of lawyers that drives a lot of the revenue from the business sector. And at that point, I knew I needed to sit down and take the LSAT. And during that time, I went over to the United States Patent and Trademark Office, the Resource Department. And at that time, I was studying, ended up going to Southern Illinois School of Law, where I graduated in 2.5 years. Came out, worked for a couple judges, went back and got my LLM from GW. So that was back to DC in 2013. And, friends of mine were coming to me asking me for legal advice, legal help. And so it forced me to set up a law firm so I can go into these courts and, participate appropriately in the business and in the courts and build a reputation for myself. And over the last 8-9 years, that's what I've been doing. And my practice has changed. I've incorporated a lot of different aspects of the law into my practice. Charles Hampton Houston said, as a Black person who is an attorney, you have an obligation. If you're not a social engineer, you're a parasite. Incumbent upon our professionals, doctors, and dentists, and accountants to pour back into communities so that we have resources and the access to certain services that, historically didn't have. So I hold that close to heart when I practice law. And, that's not all that I'm about, because, I've got federal cases involving, patents, trademarks. I've got copyright matters. I've gone to employment issues that span the demographic of people and businesses. I've done wills, family issues, so
you have really gotten really deep into it. So tell me about this cycle, this specific election cycle, why you've chosen to throw your hat in the ring.
So I didn't ever really have a desire to run for public office. Being from Washington, D.C., every election season, you start seeing signs pop up, the same names, the major thoroughfares are going to be littered with posters of people saying, they want to help, the district get better. And
Yeah.
I think we've been in good hands, for the most part. And if there are issues, people step to the plate and handle those. However, in 2020, which seems like just yesterday, landscape started to shift. We started to turn to our leaders and ask them to fix certain issues that I don't think we should be having to ask them to fix. And so 16th Street, right in front of the White House, now Black Lives Matter Plaza, brought masses of people to protest.
Yes.
And it was in those moments, weekend after weekend, day after day, where you saw the outcry that people were literally putting their lives on the line. Give me freedom or give me death was embodied during the pandemic, right? You got this airborne virus. We didn't know much about it then. And people were still willing to go out there, put their masks on, and demand justice. And so I said to myself, how can I do more? What can I do? What skill set do I have? How can I participate in this political process, which seems to guide the lives of society? And that gave me the push. And so you just don't up and throw your hat in the ring. There's a guy, Carl Racine, who's done an amazing job. And so you start thinking strategically, well, maybe he doesn't want to do the job anymore. Maybe this is a time that I could step up and fill some big shoes. I think, this isn't all about Black Lives Matter, but we have recognized that with the passing of certain giants, it requires some people to step up. John Lewis, C.T. Vivian, John Thompson, the Georgetown basketball coach. Those losses provided inspiration to us to step up and carry the torch forward. So, I said, all right, here I am, 36, 37 years old. Who's going to be the next attorney general? Who's going to be ushering in, the litigation, the guidance for the district to take on cases, to monitor juvenile offenses, to be on that national stage, taking on bad actors like, Trumps of the world and, student loan issues and, the oath seekers when they came here in January 6th, who's going to step up? And I'm saying this is the type of stuff we need to be doing and doing more of it and charging us up in, the district and saying, hey, look, we've got to use the law to make a difference in our lives. That's what it does. I believe the law has the power to eliminate a lot of the issues that we face. We just have to write them in a certain way. We have to implement them and enforce them in a certain way. And what better of a place to do that from than the Attorney General's office? And I'm pushed and charged up by all the energy from 2020, 2021. I think we've got more nuanced issues with the layering of COVID.
Yes, certainly.
Right. So there's a disparity between classes and ethnic groups that is growing as a result of the pandemic. And the problems that were plaguing us before just got exacerbated. So
yes, they did.
We need to really get aggressive about how we're governing to ensure that this gap doesn't grow too wide and then cause a certain outcry and certain problems that are going to result from that disparity. And we're watching it happen in real time.
Yeah, and that's so important. And you've touched on a few of them already, but I want to hear you tell me about some of the top issues that's, really at the forefront of your mind when you think about, if elected to this position, the ones that you would really try to tackle from, the offset.
So if you asked me this question 8 months ago when I started kicking this thing off, I would give you a certain answer. However, my priorities have evolved, and I can't give you sound bites to say, here's what we're going to address. There's a thread that goes between, the environment, clean air, clean food, access to utilities, how utilities are serviced in certain areas, gun violence, how, schools are being monitored and I guess cared for. You got issues of unemployment, you've got issues of tax, you've got this new digital space of financial issues. You can't put one off for another, right? But I can say that I want to use the law in the courts and in legislation to eliminate racial disparities, right? To create the equality. Use the courtrooms as a way to gain access to justice by saying, hey, look, there's $400 that keeps people out of the courts, that keep them from getting the justice that they need. We need to, fund our public advocacy at a much higher clip and let people know these doors are open for them so that they're not sitting at home suffering in silence. And we need to remove some old and antiquated laws that no longer work. They don't work for the society that we're in now. And, they stem and were grown out of a history that we no longer want to, have incorporated into the fabric of where we are now.
Yeah, and that's really, really important. So for anyone who is watching out there and they don't know when the election starts or when voting begins, please enlighten everyone. When does voting begin and how important it is to make sure that you are voting in the elections this year?
All right, so early voting starts June 6th. But look, you're making your decision right now with the information that's out here, looking at the candidates that are out here, and the election day is June 1st, 2022. And so why voting is critically important is because we're looking at a hot button topic like Justice Breyer coming off of the Supreme Court, and we're asking Biden to make good on his campaign promise of appointing Black women to the Supreme Court. And now, the Democrats have a majority, and they would have no problem with the simple majority voting in a Biden pick. But we're coming into midterms where people are very unhappy with the administration, and they may not get out and vote. So we may not get that. We may not get that pick to go into the Supreme Court if we waited. So this is one of these things where voting matters. And that's why even in Washington, D.C., you want to get out and vote. You have a member of Congress, that seat in the House of Representatives, that's up for re-election.
Yes.
So, get out of the House, participate. And even if you might have a skepticism about the way this all works, at least if you went out and tried, you can eliminate a possibility, meaning I went out and I voted. So at least I know that voting can get me this. But if you don't ever try, you don't know. So I would say
there's no experience there.
Defer to the point of that status quo, say, I'll go vote. Now, if you guys don't make the changes necessary, I will vote you out. Or, or I won't participate the next time, and you leave it open, and then we'll all be, at effect of who does participate.
Exactly. Well, I want to say to our viewers that if you want to make sure that your vote's ready come this June, you need to check your status, register to vote, all of that. You can go to headcount.org. Once again, that is headcount.org to check your voter status and register to vote. Before I let you go, Ryan, how can people learn more about your campaign, support if they want to, and keep up with whatever you're doing and to learn more?
My website is ryanjonesforag.com. You can go there. If you want to support, you can also go to that website and click the donate button. We do need funding, so we want to take this opportunity to ask for people to participate. That allows us to pay for yard signs, pay for updated information, literature that goes out, emails and things of that nature. I have my Instagram account, Ryan Jones ESQ. I have my Twitter account, Ryan Jones for AG, and Facebook page is Ryan Jones for DC Attorney General. So there's information there that, I can provide updates. And, I do status updates. I'll do like, share some news and show how this threads back to the district and why it's important to pay attention to certain, national, but it still affects us here in Washington, D.C.
Certainly, certainly. And to our viewers, those links will be in the description of this video, so you can go ahead and check that out. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure, and I wish you the best of luck on your campaign.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the time. I've seen you guys doing this, and I'm proud of what you guys are doing, and thank you for sharing your platform with me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thanks for the work that you've been doing in our community and will continue to do. To everyone watching, please follow Team Racine on all forms of social media. And most of all, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.